Welcome back to another episode of the NFL Cymru Podcast with myself, Dyfed Cynan Guto Williams. This is a Monday night edition, and we thought that we'd bring something different to you this evening. First of all, Guto, noswaith dda, how was your weekend?
Noswaith dda, very good. Bit down with no NFL still. We're still getting used to Sunday nights, helping the missus doing the shopping. So, counting down the weeks. Obviously, we've got the combine coming up, so I'll be looking at that throughout the week. If you guys don't know what the combine is, it's basically an invitation for college players to pretty much showcase their abilities and show other teams what type of personalities, what type of players they are before the draft at the end of April. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that one, see a few players on there. But we're still counting down to the first NFL Sunday. Short weekend.
Cool. I mean, like you said, combine can make or break a player's draft position at the end of the day as well.
Yeah.
If they have a really bad, a poor showing at the combine, that could see a really, really potentially talented player drop, and that's happened a lot. And then, say if you're picking 15, 16, something like that, you might see a player that should be a top 5 player dropping into your lap, and that's definitely happened before. And I hope that happens because the Dolphins are drafting 13th this year. So let's see if it happens. Another thing, Guto, to note as well, that free agency officially starts 2 weeks tomorrow. I know the date, the 11th of March, because it is my son's birthday. Okay. So there's going to be a lot of... so basically, after the combine, another thing, the combine, by the way, that gives GMs and head coaches opportunities, like you said, to go and chat to the players. And a lot of tampering happens. So when a head coach is potentially interested in a player, they could kind of like start having a chat to see, if they'd be a good fit. How would they like to play for that particular head coach and the team, and so on and so forth. So they say the tampering or the legal tampering usually starts a couple of days before, but like I said, 11th of March, free agency, boom, and that's going to literally kick off pretty much the 2025 season, because like Guto said, draft in April, and then that's where the horrible gap after the draft. We have to wait a couple of months until training camp and so on. But anyway, just before we start, we've got something different for you this evening on the NFL Cymru Podcast. We are going to rank our top 10 quarterbacks of the 2024 season. Now, a disclaimer, we haven't compared. I have no idea what QBs Guto has on his list. Same applies to me. So we're going to start with number 10. We're going to keep the suspense, and we're going to go all the way up to number 1. And Guto as well you've done a top 10 all-time QB list, haven't you?
Yeah, I've did a bit of a research on this one, as we weren't sure where we were going to head with this episode with the rankings. So in my current list, I've basically gone, there's pretty much like who is the top 10, but there's a little bit of favoritism in there as well from who I've seen this season as well. But I've done an all-time list. I've compared other different lists, and I think I've gotten pretty close to other lists from what I've seen on the internet as well. So we'll see. Like you said, we'll keep the suspense. It could be as controversial as it can be, but I think that's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is only personal opinion. This is a free fall, everyone's going to have everyone's going to have their own biases, because like you said, you're a Falcons fan, I'm a Dolphins fan. I think Dan Marino, for instance, is probably potentially one of the best quarterbacks never to win a Super Bowl.
Yes.
That's a true fact there for me anyway. So, obviously we're going to have our own kind of like special spin on it. But just before we do go into the rankings, Guto, I just wanted to thank again Cynan Anwyl for coming on the last pod. For those of you who haven't listened back to the Friday edition that we did, it was a really cool pod. I really, really enjoyed it. A lot of insight from Cynan, how he started off as a rugby player, then he went to college, joined an NFL team at the college, and now he is the head coach and the defensive coordinator, DC, of the Bangor Mud Dogs. So Bangor is a university up in North Wales, half an hour from where Guto lives, actually. Yeah. And it's crazy to think that neither myself and Guto knew that Bangor University had an NFL team, which is kind of shocking, really. But now we know, so thank you very much to Cynan. They played on Sunday, yesterday, against Salford. I've heard from Cynan that it was very, very successful. And although the weather apparently was terrible, they were playing pretty much in a hurricane. So their next game is Varsity Cymru between Bangor and Aberystwyth University on the 22nd of March. And I don't know about you, Guto, but don't you think, especially if it's in Aberystwyth, potentially both of us should try and go and see that game? Because literally, geographically, it's halfway. It's the halfway point between Pwllheli and Cardiff. What do you think about that?
I 100% agree with you. I would definitely love to go and watch Cynan and the Bangor Mud Dogs play. Definitely. I'm so happy to hear there's a team so close to me. So it's definitely something that we'll be looking at 100%. It's something that we should, to go support the boys as well.
Exactly. Okay. Are we ready to go into the rankings?
Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. Like we said, we're going to start off with 10 and then we're going to work backwards. I'm guessing, like we said before, that maybe the top 3 are probably going to be obvious for those of you who are well-known NFL fans. Everyone's going to have their different opinion. A lot of people had different opinions in terms of which quarterback won the MVP this year. We'll get into that very, very shortly. Guto, do you want to start off with your number 10?
I'll start with the number 10. So I've put a little bit of favoritism into this. I've not based it on who performed better who got further in the playoffs. I just think these are my personal top 10 favorites from the season who I've enjoyed watching. I'm going to start with number 10. I'm going to go with Jayden Daniels from the Commanders.
Wow. Okay.
Some might say that's very low, but which to be fair, looking at it is. But there's so many great players, so many great quarterbacks this season. Like I said, this was a difficult list to do, so I've settled on Jayden Daniels as my number 10.
Fair, no problem. My number 10 is another rookie, Bo Nix of the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
I have the stats, the 2024 stats in front of me. In 17 games, 3,775 passing yards, 430 rushing yards, only 3 fumbles, 12 interceptions, 29 TDs, passing TDs as well. Obviously, Denver made a massive switch, getting rid of Russell Wilson, taking a massive cap hit, by the way. I think they had to take like a 25 or 30 million cap hit just to get rid of Russell Wilson. And the Nathaniel Hackett era, completely a disaster for Denver. But to be fair, they got Sean Payton in. He immediately changed that franchise around, because to think about it, in the 2023 season, the Dolphins put 70 points on the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
A record. We scored I think we scored 8 touchdowns against them, maybe even more. Maybe it was even 10.
Yeah.
And this year they managed to make the playoffs, which is a brilliant turnaround in one season. But that's what's amazing about the NFL. Not what you have in Premier League and things like that in football. There's always a chance of being the worst team, and then within a quick turnaround in a year, you can go to the playoffs. That's what I love about the NFL. But anyway, I digress. Bo Nix, I thought he was he was an exciting passer.
Yeah.
He could move in the pocket. Denver have some weapons, obviously. Wide receivers. Cortland Sutton, I think, is a very underrated wide receiver. Didn't have that much of a running game either in Denver. But I think I had to put him in my top 10, A, because he made the playoffs and Denver haven't been to the playoffs for a while, and they were so shocking last year, and he's shown a lot of promise. I think he's quite an exciting player to watch.
Yeah.
So Bo Nix is my number 10.
Funnily enough, I've got Bo Nix as an honourable mention on my list.
Fair.
So yeah,
I'm glad we agree. There we are.
He was one for consideration. Yeah,
okay.
He's an exciting player, 100%.
Guto, Rhif now, number 9.
Well, looking at this list now, I think I've made a bit of a mistake, but as number 9, I've gone for Jared Goff from the Detroit Lions.
Okay.
He's a great quarterback. He's got some great weapons around him. Unfortunately, he just didn't do it during the playoffs when, to me, the Lions were destined for the Super Bowl from the beginning of the season. So something happened. Although they scored a few points against the Commanders, it was a fantastic game, but I've got him down as a number 9.
Okay. Jared Goff is a really, really tricky one because, like you said, he benefits from a lot of talent around him. Let's be honest, the Detroit Lions they've got a top 3 O-line. They've probably got one of the best running teams, running back duos in the league. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a star. I think he already is a star, but I think he's an absolute stud. He has some brilliant wide receivers. St. Brown, I think he's a brilliant receiver. He's got a lot of weapons, and he benefited from Ben Johnson calling plays as well. Take Ben Johnson away from this is going to be interesting next year to see, all the weapons are going to be there. And I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit add some more wide receiver help. They've got probably one of the best up and coming tight ends as well. His name escapes me. Anyway, he'll come back to me. He's a brilliant tight end as well. So he's got a lot of options. Jared Goff might come up very, very shortly. Number 9, again, this might be a controversial one. I've gone for Baker Mayfield.
Oh, I missed that. I've completely forgot about Baker Mayfield.
Okay, let me tell you why.
He just flew right by me. I don't know why I put him even in honourable mention, but no.
The reason why I went with Baker Mayfield at number 9 is because he threw for 4,500 yards, 4,500 yards, 41 passing touchdowns. Okay, he threw 16 interceptions, but that's what you're going to get with Baker. You're going to get a lot of the good and you get a lot of the bad. He's a gunslinger. Yeah. I think he's clearly found a really, really good system. Well, now that Liam Cohen has left, we'll see who comes in. Yeah. That's going to be interesting as well. But again, he's got a brilliant wide receiver duo. He's got Chris Godwin and he's got Mike Evans. An honourable mention as well to Mike Evans. An incredible stat, by the way. He's every single season. I think he's been in the league for 10 years now. He's had at least 1,000 yards every single season. Yeah. And I know I'm hyping up the Bucks. I know I'm really sorry about that because I know you're a Falcons fan. But I just had to put that. Baker had a tough time when he was drafted by Cleveland as the number 1 overall pick around 6 years ago. He went to the Panthers. He went to the Rams, and then all of a sudden, the Bucks just kind of gave him a 1-year deal, and I think he's going to be there for at least another season or two because I'm not sure if they'll be looking for a young quarterback. I mean, Baker's not even 30 yet. I think he's like 27, 28. 13 fumbles. Like I said, you're going to get a lot of the good and you're going to get a lot of the bad as well. But I would rather have a QB, like I said, that's going to be a gunslinger than a conservative quarterback. Yeah. So, like I said, he's going to ruffle a lot of feathers, but I had to put him just because he threw for so many yards. 4,500 is ridiculous, and 41 touchdowns. So Baker Mayfield is my number 9.
Yeah, I don't know how I completely forgot about Baker Mayfield, probably because I don't think about the Bucks that often. So, he's an unbelievable. His story, his rise from that pick with the Browns, he didn't really work out. Going to the Buccaneers, it's been exceptional to watch. He's such a great quarterback, and he just doesn't really do it during the playoffs. That's his only problem, I think. So that's what the Bucks that's what they're worried about with him. That's the only thing that they're worried about is the fact that he can't do it during the playoffs. But I do think he'll still be there for at least 2 seasons, I think.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Okay, number 8.
My number 8 is Jordan Love for the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, okay. I like Jordan Love. I think he's a great player, and I think the Packers they just need a little bit more weapons. I think to push them to go to the NFC Championship.
Jordan Love for me is not in my top 10 because for me he's too inconsistent. I know he's dealt with a lot of injuries over the last couple of years. He got injured in the first game in Mexico, didn't he? Oh, sorry, in Brazil.
He did.
And he lost, I think he was out for a couple of games at the beginning of the season, picked up towards the end. He had an incredible run towards the end of last season where I think the Packers won 6 in a row to get into the playoffs. And they got into the divisional round. But in terms of his stats here, almost 4,000 yards, throwing 25 TDs, 11 interceptions, 83 rushing yards. So, pretty decent. Like I said, 15 games. So he lost 2.
Yeah.
He was out for 2, the first 2 games of the season. Don't know what to do. I don't know what to do about the Packers, to be honest with you. They're in a very, very strong division.
Yeah.
Detroit and Minnesota are going to be a problem for a while. And I think Chicago are an up-and-coming team as well.
Yeah.
Especially with the new regime coming in as well,
Yeah.
So I think Green Bay have a fantastic head coach in Matt LaFleur. I think he's a brilliant head coach. However, they just don't seem to put it together, especially in the playoffs. When they had Aaron Rodgers, obviously they went to so many title games, but they could never get to the Super Bowl. So yeah, like I said, completely understand why he's in your top 10, but just for me personally, he's too inconsistent.
Yeah.
So my number 8 happens to be Jared Goff. Like I said, I think we mentioned before, he benefits from a lot of things around him. And I think although he's been to 1 Super Bowl. Yes, he went to the Super Bowl with the Rams. That was probably one of the worst Super Bowls in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
It was such a dull game. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Between the Patriots and the Rams, it was such a low-scoring game. It was something like
13-7
or something.
I believe,
terrible.
Yeah.
So that was the reason that he was traded to the Lions. I think it's fantastic how he's become the hero of Detroit now, and that they were chanting his name in the draft last year when it was held in Detroit. Like I said, he threw for 4,600 yards again, which is absolutely insane. The problem with me is, 37 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 6 fumbles. So he is prone to the odd mistake. And ultimately, against Washington in the divisional round, that's what you saw. It was a complete meltdown, and he threw a lot of silly passes that he really, really didn't need. He was forced to. Like I said, he's probably got one of the best offensive lines in front of him, a brilliant running game. I'm sure Detroit will add to their weaponry this upcoming season. But yeah, he's going to split opinions, but he's definitely a top 10 quarterback. He's very consistent. The only thing that he needs to do to take him to the next level is, like you said, do that in the playoffs. And I think that's true about a lot of QBs in the top 10, to be fair.
Yeah.
Number 7.
We're on number 7 now.
Yeah, number 7.
This one is a bit of a fall from grace for this team, I think, especially from last season. But I still think what he can do, he's still a top quarterback. I've gone with Brock Purdy for the 49ers. They've not had a great season, obviously. But to me, when they're fresh and him as a quarterback, he can do so much. He's a fantastic quarterback for me. I probably should have put him a little bit lower, to be fair. But like I said, I've based this a little bit on favoritism and everything as well. So I've gone for Brock Purdy for the 49ers as my number 7.
Brock Purdy is not in my top 10,
No,
unfortunately.
I'm not surprised. No.
Again, inconsistencies. Again, the same as Jared Goff. He benefits from a lot of weaponry, although that's going to change because Debo apparently has requested a trade.
Yeah.
So he'll be leaving San Francisco. Brock Purdy, again, a fantastic story, being the last pick in the draft.
Yeah.
He's going to get paid this offseason, potentially. He's probably going to break the market in terms of money for a quarterback. However, although he's taken the San Francisco 49ers to the Super Bowl last year, I just don't think he's got the X factor. Like Jimmy Garoppolo, when the Niners went to the Super Bowl 4 or 5 years ago, I just don't think when it comes down to crunch time, I know he was up against the brilliant Chiefs defense and probably one of the best defensive coordinators the league has ever seen in Steve Spagnuolo. He just didn't have any answers, blitzing, things like that. When he needed a first down, he couldn't get a first down. And I know that it went to overtime, but for me, he just hasn't quite got that X factor yet. He might, again, he's only in his 3rd season. He's going into his 4th season. This might change. Yeah. So my number 7 is Jayden Daniels.
Yeah, great quote.
I feel like I can't ignore what he has done throughout the season, and especially in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think he is one of the most talented upcoming QBs, rookies that we've ever seen. I'd put his rookie season above what we saw from CJ Stroud last year. He's just so clutch. And the other clutch, rather. So his stats are, he threw for 3,568 yards, 25 passing touchdowns. But the one thing that, on top of that, 891 rushing yards. So he's a dual threat.
Yeah.
In that game against Detroit, he was just fearless. That's what I love about Jayden Daniels.
Yeah.
Like rookies, like some people, if a rookie is kind of like thrown into the deep end, some people you can see when a QB is not ready, kind of to be in the spotlight. Yeah. Jayden Daniels was ready from the first game. Jayden Daniels, I'd argue, was ready from the first off-season, preseason game, because I know for a fact, because they did a practice session with the Dolphins in the off-season, and he was tearing the Dolphins defense up. Yeah. He was scoring touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. He was so poised, and I can't wait to see what he does next season. Again, the same thing like happened to Stroud this year. The second year dip might happen, but I just think he's so confident. They've got a brilliant head coach. Terry McLaurin, I love as a wide receiver, and I think we've talked about this. I think Washington might be in to add to their weaponry. I think they might be in for another wide receiver in the free agency, if not the draft this year. So Jayden Daniels is my number 7. Really excited to see more from him.
Yeah, great choice. I'm just quickly going to move him above Brock Purdy right there. He's a great talent. And what the Commanders have done, I still remember that game against, I believe it was the Chicago Bears, that last throw in the dying seconds. The top players do that. That's what they do. And he had all the time in the world to throw that ball as well. There was a bit of a fumbling here or there, whatever, but he did that. So such an exciting talent. He's got a bright future. And like you said, he was definitely ready as soon as he got drafted. So unbelievable talent.
Cool. Number 6.
We're on number 6, and this is probably one of my favorites, because I love, it's not Michael Penix Jr., by the way, but it's someone I've been looking at the last 2 years, and I think I've praised his team a lot as well. You mentioned him just now. My number 6 is CJ Stroud. Probably not a season that he was expecting compared to last season, but I love watching him play. Him and Jayden Daniels, they're both definitely on the rise, 100% to go up. And I've put CJ Stroud in there. He's exceptional for me.
CJ Stroud is not in my top 10. Spoiler alert. Now then, this next pick might be very, very controversial.
Okay.
I can't ignore what this quarterback has done in clutch moments and in the playoffs. Now, my number 6 is Jalen Hurts.
Interesting. Okay.
So
I'm not too angry with that.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why in a minute.
His stats aren't great. I'm not going to lie to you. 2,900 throwing yards, only 18 passing touchdowns, where you're going back to Jared Goff, who had 43. 630 rushing yards, only 5 interceptions in 15 games. But like I said, Jalen Hurts, he went in the second round for Philadelphia when Carson Wentz was number 1 a couple of years ago. He potentially should have been the Super Bowl MVP 2 years ago when Philadelphia narrowly lost to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I thought he was absolutely unbelievable. Didn't have the best regular season, if I'm honest with you, in 2024. But I can't ignore what he did in the playoffs. Yeah. And I know, again, the same old story. He benefits from a brilliant O-line, Saquon Barkley. He's got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Yeah. And he's got a fantastic defense. However, he obviously, Super Bowl aside, I thought he was fantastic against the Rams, and I thought he was brilliant against the Commanders as well. I think he really turned it on in the playoffs. Yeah. Again, dual threat. He can be a run-pass option. And like I said, you know, I know that I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this as well, because do you know what? I've actually got the NFL.com, the official website rankings, and Jalen Hurts is all the way down in number 16.
Oh.
It's wild, isn't it?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't disagree with you with you putting him in number 6. I've got him at number 5.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So we're quite close on that one. I just think the players that I've got in my top 4 above Hurts, we've seen Hurts throw a ball. We've seen him run with the ball.
Yeah.
Anything Hurts can do, I think the top 4 players can do better.
Fair.
Yeah, and Hurts, don't get me wrong, great quarterback. Super Bowl aside, he's a brilliant quarterback anyway. He's got one of the best weapons around him.
Yeah,
to help him reach that goal. So, but yeah, I think this one's the closest one that we've got on the list. I think.
Yeah.
Top 5. Yeah. So to me, Hurts is number 5.
I don't think you have this next quarterback in your top 10. So my number 5 is Matthew Stafford.
Oh, did you what? He's in my honorable mention as well.
Okay, I'm a huge fan of Matthew Stafford. Again, his stats are pretty decent: 3,762 passing yards, 20 passing touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. Shockingly, not a lot of rushing yards, only 41. But there we are. Matthew Stafford, the reason that I put him in my top 5 is because he is a great example of a QB putting his team on his back.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp is not the Cooper Kupp of old. Puka Nacua was injured for half of the season, and somehow the Rams, again, they've got brilliant coaching, don't get me wrong. I'm a massive fan of their running back, Kyron Williams. Yeah. Haven't got a brilliant offensive line, to be honest with you, or a defense. Matthew Stafford, I thought, was brilliant in the playoffs. At times, he was excellent in the regular season as well. But even when the Rams lost in that blizzard, that snowstorm at Philadelphia, the reason that they were in that game was because of Matthew Stafford. For me, he's, like I said, the type of leader, puts the team on his back. He can, not the most athletic quarterback. You can see he's got a very, very talented arm. You could see that when he was with the Lions. By the way, I saw an interesting article today that potentially he could be traded this offseason.
I was just going to bring it up with you now. Actually, you wonder if he's still going to be at the Rams next season. Same with Cooper Kupp as well.
Cooper Kupp, yeah.
So it could be a massive reshuffle at the at the Rams, 100%.
So
Yeah,
there we are.
yeah. So
So
he's in my honorable mention.
here we go. Top four.
Top four. My number four is probably my second. I mean, obviously we know who number one is, but I love this player. I think he's an outstanding player. Unfortunately, he didn't make the playoffs. I think you know who he is. Ice cold Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the best quarterbacks. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He really is. He should be higher on my list, but from this season, I've gone with the other three. But Joe Burrow, he's just so, I say this, he's just so cool. He's so cool, and he's such an exceptional player. He's just watching him play is so fun. I love him. I love him. He's a great player.
He threw for the most yards in the league, almost 5,000, 53 passing touchdowns, only 9 interceptions. That is absolutely crazy. A percentage, pass percentage of 70.6%. Like I said, he is an exceptional talent.
A quarterback like that should be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I know. And to be fair, I mean, I think personally that their head coach is lucky that he's still there. I know Cincinnati a couple of years ago when they went to the Super Bowl had a brilliant defense. That has clearly fallen apart over the last couple of years. And like you said, they're riding Burrow's back. The only problem that I worry about Burrow is, okay, he stayed healthy this year, but he's a little bit injury prone, isn't he? That's the only problem.
Yeah. And his team around him as well. It's an injury prone team as well.
Exactly. Yeah. They need to sort out the O-line. The O-line is a massive problem. That was the reason why he was injured he tore his ACL in his rookie season, because they didn't have an O-line in front of him at all. Yeah. Obviously, he's got one of the best receivers in Jamar Chase. Again, he's going to be demanded. He's going to get paid this offseason as well. And are Cincinnati going to be able to hold on to T. Higgins? I genuinely don't think they will be. I think he'll be gone in free agency. So, like you said, I think one of his best quotes were, Cincinnati Super Bowl window is open as long as I'll be playing.
Yeah.
That says it all, really, So, cool. So here we go. We've got 5 minutes left. Top three. Let's do it.
Top three. Was Burrow your number four, by the way?
He was my number four.
Okay, we got that one right. My number three is Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. It was between him and, I'm going to mention it, Josh Allen. I've actually got arrows twice, me switching them around, but I've just gone with Lamar Jackson just purely because Josh Allen won MVP this year. But I believe Lamar Jackson won it last year, if I'm right.
Did.
So 2 MVP caliber quarterbacks in my top three. So to me, Lamar Jackson's number three.
Josh Allen is my number three, quite simply. It was debatable who deserved to win the MVP this year. Like I said, Lamar won it last year and in 2018, I believe.
Yeah.
Personally, I thought that he deserved to win it this year as well. Josh Allen, in the end, had 28 votes. Lamar had 23. So it was pretty close.
Yeah. There was no doubts between those two in the end.
For me, Lamar, listen to this, 4,172 passing yards. He rushed for almost 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
41 passing touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. Incredible stats. Like I said, I think Lamar Jackson has changed the league in terms of it being a dual quarterback. He wasn't well known a couple of years ago when he came into the league about his passing ability. He's worked on it so much rather. And I think this year was his best season throwing the football as well, even though they added Derrick Henry. So to go back to my number three, Josh Allen. Listen, I'm a Dolphins fan. He's the Bills quarterback. It's an absolute killer for me because he's going to be a problem in the AFC for the next 10 years, maybe longer. He's a brilliant talent. The one thing that I'm very impressed is that he was a turnover prone last year. He had around 20 interceptions last year. I called him Mr. Interception. Now he only had 6 throughout the whole season. That was very, very impressive. And the other thing that I'll add as well is the Bills didn't have a number one wide receiver. However, they had a brilliant OC in Joe Brady, and they like to spread the ball around.
Yeah.
So Josh is my number 3. I've already said Lamar's my number 2.
Yeah. I've
Josh
got
is your
Lamar
number
3,
2.
Josh Allen at 2. Yeah.
So I'm glad that we decide that we agree that the king, the GOAT, Patrick Mahomes is number 1.
Oh, I've got Kirk Cousins as my number 1.
Get out. Anyway.
yeah, the GOAT, Patrick Mahomes, number 1. It is no question. It really isn't. He didn't do well in the Super Bowl this year, of course.
No.
But you can't, look at the last 5-6 seasons with Patrick Mahomes. You said Lamar changed the game. I think Patrick Mahomes, he's changed the game. He's playing in his own field. He's going to be up there with Tom Brady one day as the top 2, top 3 GOATs, 100%. Yep. So he's on his way there. He's exceptional.
The fact that he can have probably his worst regular season and potentially, his worst season full stop and still get to a Super Bowl is ridiculous. I know, on NFL.com, by the way, he's ranked number 8, which is interesting, I thought. So there we are. We're going to have to wrap this up, I'm afraid. But I really hope that you've enjoyed this edition. We were ranking our top 10 quarterbacks of the 2024 season. We'll have to do another episode, Guto, to cover the top 10 all-time quarterbacks. And that's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to do mine as well. So join the conversation, by the way. If you agree, if you disagree, we're on Instagram, NFL Cymru, and you're on X as well, NFL Cymru Pod. Thank you very much for listening. Like, subscribe. We'll be up on YouTube and Spotify very, very shortly. Until next time, Guto, diolch yn fawr iawn i ti.
Diolch yn fawr, nos da.